How's it going, everybody? Hope you're having a wonderful Thursday. Got some fun stuff to discuss on the docket, primarily the RTBF IXP Online #1 tournament. I don't know if that's actually how you pronounce it, but that is all the letters and what it comes with. And if you guys don't know what I'm talking about, this one actually kind of flew under the radar. Not too many people actually knew about this tournament altogether. It was actually over the course of quite a bit of time. The original qualifier, the very first one, started all the way back March 13th and it spanned over the course of the last month and finally came to a conclusion a couple days ago. Today's video, we're going to break down exactly how the teams got to be there, as there was 4 invited, 4 from qualifiers, and all the results. So with that said, let's jump into qualifier number 1. This one went down, like I said, on March 13th, where there was 8 teams in particular, some more notable than others, like SK Gaming ended up showing up. You also saw a culmination of kind of different players with like Parka, Force, and Juicy, and other names that are a little bit more notable ended up coming into the further qualifiers. But one team in particular, London Esports, with T Jester, Lawler, and Ashley, ended up showing up and having a pretty solid result and going 4-2 in the grand finals, where they beat 2 other teams along the way. The scary thing about these tournaments is they are single elimination in the qualifiers, so there is not a whole lot of wiggle room. You just have to win on through. So that was who first team was. In qualifier 2, you did see some more notable names like Exotic, Yukis. You saw different iterations of the former Cooksters Minions, now Pokemaniacs team, and you saw Mike Boy, though, and Oli give their first iterations. You saw Caliente with Sazin, Radosin, and Zen. You saw Pepitos Canyons make it back with Uthamwe, Dorito, and Ocelon. So you saw a lot of like high-profile talent come together for a tournament that was 10,000 euros. It actually wasn't a small prize pool by any means. So in this tournament altogether, it was the SA team of Mike Boy, though, and Oli that looked absolutely dominant, where they ended up going through pretty easily, I would say. Caliente, the Sazin, Radosin, Zen team, gave them a pretty good run, but they ended up 4-0ing in the grand finals, looking pretty solid. You'll be seeing highlights, obviously, of course, from these matches in particular. But yeah, a lot of really good results. All of these were handled and done on the RTBF_IXPE Twitch channel. So if you do want to go back, they do have VODs if you'd like to go check these out. There's not too many people knew about it. In the third qualifier, you saw even more names. Caliente made a run back. You saw the Pokemaniacs, actual full iteration of the roster, show up in this one, where it was Growly, Rai, and Speed instead of VK Salen. They saw Speed this time around, and some others as well across. Navi ended up playing, and kind of just good ways to see some off-season tournaments. Caliente ended up winning this one after getting beat out by SA last time and getting super close. This time they ended up coming through. It was them versus Navi in the grand finals. Caliente ended up winning that one. And then in the fourth and final qualifier, we saw teams like Wild, their new iteration, possibly. You saw friends of Atomic with CRR, Dorito, and Atomic come out, and Pokemaniacs officially, but they ended up trying Nolly this time around, which you did end up seeing Los Hombres de Atomic, or Atomic's Men, if you want to translate it. I think that's the direct translation. Who knows if that's actually what it means. My Spanish is bad. I did not stick with it. But they ended up winning the whole thing. So CRR, Dorito, and Atomic ended up being the winning solution. This time around, it was not the Mensa. So they ended up playing pretty well and going through the Pokemaniacs squad, who ended up beating Wild. And on the other side of the bracket, that No Horizon team ended up getting close with Boom, Stizzy, and Cure Monster. I haven't seen that name in quite a while. So cool to see that one play through. But that ended up bringing us to the main event, which was, again, the first online tournament. Assuming this is the first one and they will do more iterations of this during the offseason, which I hope, because I think there's never enough EU tournaments. We had, again, those 4 qualifiers, but they also invited 4 teams as well. The first team they invited was K-Corp, which was Astral Itachi, and they ended up trying out Noli. We ended up talking about in that video just yesterday about how they were through the tweet longer that Stake ended up mentioning that potentially they're trying out another French player and this and that. But it was actually Noli that they ended up using for this tournament, and it went quite well. We'll talk about that in a bit. Also invited Evil Geniuses, who are keeping their roster the exact same. SK Gaming, who's keeping their roster the same. And then Team Vitality, we got to see the first iteration of this roster with Radosin, which is part of the reason why I do think that Vitality was ended up pushing out the information as quickly as they did, because people were pretty ready to see like okay, if you're trying with Redocin during this tournament instead of Fairy Peak, we can only assume that's what the roster is going to be. We also got to see the first time of Farah officially coaching for the roster. And a lot of these guys, if you haven't seen the timeline, primarily from Farah and Shazette, they've been hanging out a lot in person together. But then you also saw Farah and K-Dop hanging out in some of his videos. So it's just good to see Farah back on the scene. I'm a Farah fanboy. Always have been. Always been a big fan of any time I've gotten to sit down and talk with Farah. So it's just awesome to see him back. Even though I do feel for Mout in his situation. The tournament as follows does go very quickly because it is not double elim, but they do end up having a third place match rather than giving the same amount of prize pool for third and fourth. They do make them play it out. So SK ended up playing that sub roster of Mike Boy, Though, and Oli, and SK ends up barely losing. It was actually a really close series, and even worse, a reverse sweep. The Liquipedia doesn't show the exact results, but this one was pretty dang close. And the fact it felt like Sus started a little bit slow and then kind of hit a groove, and it really showed up. So that one hurts for the SK Gaming team. That stuff should not be happening, but that sub roster is actually pretty dang solid with Mike Boy, Oli, and Though. So fun to see that one play out as we do get to see that group come back together. If you guys do not know about the Though Oli situation, make sure you guys go check out the previous videos that we did coverage on that. We then got to see this new iteration of the K-Corp roster with Nolly, and it ended up going pretty well. Very close series against Los Hombres de Atomic, who had a pretty good result in their qualifier. In qualifier 4. Qualifier 4 is the one that they ended up qualifying in. And that one ended up going against them. It was K-Corp that does win it in 7. Another close series and a pretty good battle. This one does have all the timestamps and stuff on Liquipedia if you want to go back and check, but pretty high scoring in general. That's something that K-Corp, I think, has always, personally, I felt like lacked in, is their consistency to score. And it seems like that creativity a little bit different with Nolly. I don't know if that's going to be the final iteration based upon what we've been hearing and stuff. And we talked about the rumors. It won't be, but again, you just never know. So interested to see how that one plays out. You did see a little bit of banter. I don't know if this was the same day or not from Vatira towards Nolly, and if you don't know what I'm talking about, you guys can go check that out on your own, or maybe it's displayed somewhere here. But a little bit of banter showing from, if those who don't know who Nolly is, here you go. And Vatira had some words to say. How much of it is banter, how much of it is serious, who knows, but hopefully it is just a lost in translation that makes it a little bit more brutal than it comes across. Who knows? Either way, K-Corp does beat them. We then drop down to Caliente versus Evil Geniuses. And I'm actually a big fan of the Caliente team with Zen, Sazin, and Exotic. They actually look really solid as a full French squad because, of course, a full French squad is always really dominant. And EG ends up losing 4-1, actually, which was pretty surprising. And then we did get to see what I was looking forward to the most, the first iteration of the new Vitality squad, where they do 4-0 the London Esports roster. We then move into the semifinals with Sa and K-Corp, and Sa wins in 7. Another nail biter. Some things, I guess, don't change for K-Corp, but again, early iteration of the roster versus the Sa roster that just seems to be absolutely vibing with no pressure on them. They look very good. There was only a 3-second overtime as well in game 2, which is pretty crazy. Just to see, like, immediately off the kickoff, it just goes in, so that one kind of hurts, but Sa does end up closing it out in 7 and moving into the grand finals. Waiting for them, they've got Caliente and Vitality playing first, and Vitality, despite taking game 1 4-3, then gets Spaceman swept, and they lose 4 in a row. Caliente, Zen, Sazin, Exotic looking pretty dang good, and of course, it's these two teams of just full-blown players all from the same spot. You've got a Netherlands team versus a French team battling in the grand finals, Sa versus Caliente. But before we do that, we have to go to the third place match. A lot of us felt was going to be 2 top 4 teams in the winter split in Vitality and K-Corp. Didn't happen. So Vitality, K-Corp, we got to see their new roster iterations perform here, and Vitality actually ended up winning here, beating that K-Corp team 4-2. There was 2 overtimes that Vitality actually won both in 208 and 437. Very, very close series. 2-1, 3-1, 2-1, 1-0. So a lot of 1-goal games. All but one is a 1-goal game. So very, very close series, which is to be expected, in my opinion, in Europe. They usually keep their matches pretty dang close, and it's more so like a small mistake here or there, like a big counterattack. That seems to be the difference. I'm curious on how much demo meta is going to get involved in that new Vitality roster, and what Redocin's evolution is going to be. I'll probably take one of these matches on stream in the next couple of days and break down how that match looks. Might be doing that on stream tomorrow. We'll have to wait and see, but some pretty interesting stuff altogether. But that gives us our third place team is Vitality, fourth place is K Corp, and then we get into our grand final. Sub versus Caliente, 3 overtimes, one of them being 8 minutes long. Very good series. I actually ended up watching this one live, and just continues to show that depth of Europe. Both these rosters looked like they were in form, like they've been playing together forever. It's just that natural chemistry, which I think is very scary for a lot of people. I think the LAWL roster and that new iteration over on what is now considered like Stormtroopers is going to be the old iteration, and what it's going to become in the future. I'm kind of excited to find out, because I think that potential is 100% there. Now that Oli is no longer with Heroic, but the new team is deemed as Netherlands. That's what I have it in my like roster document. And I think it's got a lot of potential. There's a lot of teams that don't have any like previous points to go off of, and they're going to have to be battling just like Heroic, ironically enough, as a team with no 3 previous seed points for the next split. And honestly, anybody's game. They're going to be playing against the 1-2 seeds, and it could be the difference between who qualifies or not again. I don't know, man. It's there's a lot of exciting things coming into this regional coming up, and this split coming up. So Caliente does end up winning in 7. Of course, the French team has to win. That's just how it goes. But yeah, 3 overtimes, minute 2, 324 in game 1, 808 in game 2, and then I think it was a game 5. Yeah, game 5 had the minute 2 one, but mostly all 1-goal games yet again. The only difference I think was defense decided to give up a little bit. So I got tired of getting smacked in OT, so they decided to just be like, we can't go to OT if we just score 6 goals, which they did. So really exciting series. That's definitely one to go back and watch. I think that grand finals shows you kind of like the makings of what new rosters could be, but we did see a lot of big prolific name talent out of this one as well. So take it for what it is, but some early looks at what these new rosters make them. The biggest one that I have my eye on is that SA/Netherlands roster of Mike Boy, though, and Oli. I think there's a lot of potential. I think the play style is more recreatable. While Caliente, I think, has higher peaks. I think the base level, or like the floor for the SA/Netherlands roster, is something I'm very excited to see. So a lot of fun off-season stuff as we get into what is going to be the upcoming split. That will be covered in tomorrow's video. We're going to be breaking down the spring split, going to be talking about what the format is, what to expect when things are starting, all the dates, who to be paying attention to, all that kind of stuff. So if you want to make sure you don't miss out on that stuff, as always, like, subscribe, comment, all that kind of stuff. And again, shout outs to the RTBF tournament. Pretty cool online tournament that we got to see some earlier iterations. I primarily was focusing on Team Vitality in the Netherlands roster, but first place, Caliente, working our way with 3,000 euros. The SA/Netherlands roster, 2,000, and then Vitality 1,500, and K Corp 1.1k. Everybody else that was 5 to 8 tied, so they got 600. But a little bit of money, 10 grand on the line. Pretty cool stuff. But yeah, that's gonna do it for me. Any comments, questions, concerns, as always, let me know down below. And hopefully we see you on stream, twitch.tv/Lawler, where we stream every day but Tuesday and Sunday. Come ask questions. Maybe we'll be doing some live recaps and some replay analysis breakdowns of these as well. But hoping to see more of these in the future. This was a pretty well-run tournament from what I saw, and even with qualifiers and stuff. I mean, it's a month-plus process, which is awesome to see that kind of evolution over the weeks. So that's going to do it for me. We'll see you next time. Peace.